think that as I did state earlier on, we need to simplify the way we do business so that the supply chains can flow in an easier way as an ocean carrier, which is part of the chain. So we don't control the whole supply chain. But as an actor of that supply chain, if we want to allow the supply chain to become more efficient and digitize into AI, blockchain, and I have a list of things I have to say, then we need to be able to do the same. So standardization, I'm still very much pushing for that interoperability of different technologies, as you probably hear from my colleague on that subject. I think these are key to allowing the industry to move forward in the digitization and forget, plus all the regulatory barriers that we have to go through. But I think we have to convince all these people that it makes sense. Otherwise, you're going to have, we heard from a lot of people, you're going to order everything through an app, or maybe straight from your brain to the cloud. But then, if somebody has to come and make you sign a document before you can actually put the order through, then you're back to square one. So that was a long place.
Hi, I'm Jeff Davidson. I'm privileged to work at Microsoft, who has a very bold mission to empower everyone, every person, and every organization on the planet to achieve more. It's a really bold statement. In my capacity, how I help do that is I lead the supply chain network for devices and software, specifically our fulfillment and logistics network worldwide. I support all Microsoft's fully packaged products, every selling channel that we have, in all countries, which is usually about 122 countries. I'd say that my focus right now, this isn't necessarily an industry thing, but our focus is really how do we cope in a high-growth business with scaling intelligently and managing the increased complexities while increasing organizational pace around decisions and things like that. So that translates to digitization, more strategic operating models in design and implementation and optimization, as well as overall visibility landscape where we're looking to drive more machine learning into our business, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. I think from an industry perspective, the logistics industry, when I meet with logistics companies, and we have a lot that we do business with, but when we meet, I think what hits me is more and more are realizing that they need to move from being a pure logistics company to being one of a technology company that also does logistics. And I think that's actually the challenge, is how do you do that when you have pilots here, proof of concepts here? How do you move from pilot to in practice at the right pace to serve the customers? I think that's the challenge.
Hi everybody, my name is John Slengrup. I have been in logistics since 1979, so I don't know how many years that is, but a lot of years. I had the great privilege of starting my career and retiring from FedEx from 79 to 2005. I retired as president of FedEx Canada, which we built in the 90s and 2000s. And more recently, I had the privilege of running the great port of Long Beach, along with my friends at Los Angeles. We built an amazing infrastructure, and that was kind of the bookends of my career. In between, I've been in private equity and run several companies, including the current one that I'm involved with, which is American Global Logistics, or AGL, based out of Atlanta. And I've been with AGL now a couple of years. We acquired them in 2017, actually late 2016. And this business is a global 3PL and now 4PL business. focused primarily in the early days on ocean freight. And that was 2 years ago, 95% of our business. Thankfully, it's down around 75% today, and moving towards about 45% probably next year. We've been aggressively moving into air freight, into trucking, and into what we call 4PL services, including brokerage, technology-enabled brokerage. So the company is very, very focused on the tech side. We have our customers, our 4PL growth is almost all software-related activities, all cloud-based, and all proprietary. So we've been focusing very much on helping our customers deal with supply chain optimization through technology applications, and that is really a critical part of what we're doing, because in my view, we are being buffeted by tremendous economic bad news. It started 2 years ago, really 3 years ago, and it hasn't let up at all. The numbers you're seeing out of the ports are really a harbinger of things to come. I know when I was involved with Long Beach, media, particularly financial news media, always looked at the ports as kind of the early indicator of what the economy was going to go like. So when the numbers were good, the economy was promising. When the numbers are not so good, it's an early indicator of what's going to be happening. So in my view, we're facing a big recession. I hope it's not big, but it's definitely, I think we're going to have a downturn, not a true recession coming up in the next year. And we're planning accordingly. Our customers are very, very hit hard by tariffs. They're very much hit hard by price volatility in the marketplace on all modes and all lanes across the world. We're also dealing with our partners, which are ocean carriers and other transportation providers, who are having great volatility in their worlds as well, based on capacity and demand issues. Who could have foreseen the tremendous increase in capacity? At the same time, we're seeing a softening of global consumer demand. So all of these things are the things that we grapple with our customers. Our customers are everything to us. What we do is focus on how can we help them lower their costs in a highly uncertain environment, and that's what we're facing today. So my principal focus with the business is to continue this movement away from ocean dependency into a much more balanced portfolio of services. I think we're about maybe a third of the way where I want to be. I'll be very happy when ocean's about a third of our business, air is about 25% of our business, brokerage maybe 10% of our business, and the rest all being technology related. And our current pipeline looks exactly like that. I think next year we will move very rapidly towards that blend. But that's what I'm focused on. I'm very scared about the economy. Very scared about the impact on our customers, people who ship goods, source goods from around the world. And it's not something that's going to be easy for anybody to handle in the next 2 years.
Thanks, John. Yeah, we'll get into some solutions as well, hopefully, because that is a giant problem that everyone is seeing for sure. So next, I'd like to introduce Lydia.
Hi everyone, my name is Lydia Yan, CEO and co-founder of Next Trucking. And I'm a little bit underdrafted today. My marketing team didn't tell me that I have to wear a suit, but I think I'm excused as a technology company founder. So a little bit about my company. Next is the first trucker-centric marketplace where we connect shippers with small trucking companies. We founded the company in October 2015. We're 4 years old. We grew 100% year over year. We raised approximately over $120 million from investors, including Sequoia Capital and Brookfield Ventures. So talking about a challenge in trucking industry, trucking is an $800 billion industry, and it's extremely fragmented. 90% of the trucking companies, small ones, either owner-operator, one guy owns his own truck by himself, or small fleets with less than 6 trucks. Top 15 trucking companies only accounts for 16% of market share, so extremely fragmented. Drive around traditional brokers to find the loads with phone calls, text messages, emails, a lot of back and forth extremely inefficient. And trucker shortage is our number one problem. Our nation is lack of at least 50,000 truck drivers. And drivers leave the job for two reasons: low pay and forced dispatch, meaning being dispatched to a location that is less preferred at a time that is less preferred. So the turnover rate in our industry is 97%. Next, focus on for drayage, which is the first mile, usually called the first mile of trucking. Trucking has 5 segments: drayage, full truckload, LTL, intermodal, and small parcel. We wanted to focus on the first mile, which is the most complex segment in trucking. It's a $60 billion segment, and it involves a tremendous numbers of players, from ATM lines to terminals to carriers to chassis providers, and 17 touch points. Extremely complicated. Everybody is working silently. There's no data sharing. So we have a lot of problems to solve. That is what Next is addressing.
And now next to Matt.
Hello guys, Matt Chicken. I'm the CEO and founder of 4Kites. 4Kites is a real-time visibility and predictive analytics platform. We are based out of Chicago. Company is 5 years old, founded in August 2014, so exactly 5 years old this August. Backed by Bain Capital, raised again over $100 million. We are active in 55 countries, with local offices in 5 different countries right now. When you think about how we started the company back in 2014, a lot of market forces were coming together. Real-time visibility is not a new concept, but like people say, you have to be at the right place at the right time. And we believe we were at the right place at the right time, given all the market forces that that came together in 2014. The number one is the Amazon effect, right? They created this B2C experience, and in the B2B world, they were wanting to experience the same thing. You order something on Amazon or eBay or wherever it is, you know exactly what is happening in an iPhone or Android app. But if you're shipping $100,000 worth of products in a truck, you have no idea what is happening. Then came the government regulations, the ELD mandate, Food Safety Modernization Act. A lot of devices were being installed in trucks, which made the availability of data, data was available in the market. And then again, Walmart and other retailers started, putting fines and penalties like OTIPs of the world. So all these things came together, and there was this need for a real-time visibility platform, and that's what we built over the last 4.5, 5 years. In terms of challenges, I see two things. Number one is, many of our customers, the top 10 CPG companies in the world, top 20 food and beverage companies in the world, they are going, from a place where they have no data to they have a lot of data, right? They have access to a lot of data, and they have no idea what to do with it. So it's good to know where the trucks are any given time, where the products are, right, when they're going to arrive. But how do you incorporate that data into biggest aspects of supply chain, whether it is inventory, warehousing, yard management, all those things. So people are still struggling to incorporate data in their daily lives. And the second is, if you look at within the companies, within the four walls of an enterprise, you have multiple systems. You have ERP, you have warehouse management, transportation management, yard management, demand, supply, you name it. There's a system for everything in supply chain, and none of these are talking to each other in real time. So again, companies are missing that control tower view across every different systems within the organization. So those are some of the challenges that we see when we talk to our customers.
Thanks, Matt. And now on to Mark.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Mark Niederer. I worked for 25 years now with Maersk. So I was first in operations. I was head of operations for Northern Europe, then for North America. So I see some of the faces that I worked with before. And then I moved to Switzerland. So Switzerland is the largest towage company in the world. It's owned by Maersk. I was first heading up Europe, and I'm now heading up Americas. So the key things we are working on, one thing is grow the footprint. So we want to go further in, especially Latin America. And the other thing is we are currently focusing on towage. So which is, for the ones who don't know, the small vessel that pulls in the big vessel. But we want to move from towage to really becoming a marine service provider. So anything related to safe and efficient port operations for the port company. Yeah, so that is what we are working on. If you look at the challenges, I'm the last one in the row, so a lot of repetition, but The first one is data. So there's so much data. So how can we have a meaningful data proposition for our clients? Then we have the whole thing about autonomous remote control. That will have a huge impact in our industry, in everybody's industry, but also definitely in ours. And then the last point is, when I prepared, I called it sustainability, but after the talk from Starbucks, I would call it caring. You know, we really want to be good citizens of and we want to look after the world, make it a better place than how we got it when we arrived. So that is really important. So that is the third challenge. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. So now we'll move to the next question. I heard some of the themes about collaboration, process, downturn of economy, coordination in really challenging multi-party environments, drayage and all, and then using data, leveraging data, implementing new solutions and new technology that's available. I wanted to start, if you could choose one of those challenges. It doesn't have to be the one that you named, but if you could propose a solution that you see in the marketplace, something that is working well, that is proving itself out, and perhaps we'll start with you, Mark.
Okay, thank you. I think one point that when you look at the conference and that's what has been discussed in all the forums, one thing that I want to stress is the high impact that, for example, the students and the new industry can make towards changing the supply chain. Because we talked about the $100 million bets on blockchain and other things. But what you can see, and especially for big companies, it's very difficult to make those innovations. And okay, there are a few two sitting in the panel, but I would say that if you look at what we are doing in trying to improve the efficiency and the safety of the port calls, there is so much to innovate. So I really, and I think that is, if you look at solutions, I would really encourage, the students to look at, okay, what is the waste in the process and how can I, make a difference? And we are also looking at Svitzer. I can give you some examples of cases where there were very, very strong ideas that could really change our proposition. But that you see that it's so difficult to actually implement it and get it done and get through the bureaucracy. So what I would say is that I would challenge the students or everybody else if you have a good idea about something small. We are very interested to work together with you or to let you develop that idea and then we implement it in our company. So that is one thing. And the other thing, just it's very obvious to probably many people in the panel, but what we also saw is that when you are sometimes you are choosing, should I be a first mover or a great follower or a lagger? What you can see now is all these changes happening in logistics, and that if you're a first mover, it actually has a lot of secondary advantages because you have to solve a lot of issues for the first time. And then you can find your niche and then develop that and do really well. And so that is something that we are also learning as a company, try to be with the first movers, learn, and then that maybe you cannot do everything, but you will learn something and do that well.
How about for you, Matt?
Yeah, so two solutions that we see coming up in the market. The first one is this concept of control tower. I know that is highly misused in the supply chain industry, right? Every company has their own control tower. But traditionally, when people think about control tower, it is all the different systems that I mentioned in my previous comment, the TMSs and ERPs of the world. In the current state, the control tower is nothing but like a BI layer, right? It has some sort of reporting layer that's getting data from all these different systems, and then you can run reports to see what happened in the past. But what we are seeing more and more is a need for a real-time control tower that is taking data in real time from these different systems, and then enabling to make proactive decisions, right? Not just looking in the past, what actions can you take right now so that you can impact something in the future. So that is, one solution that we see more and more coming up in the market, and even we are working on something similar. And the second is, the concept of optimization. So traditionally, when you talk about optimization, whether it is logistics or inventory or whatever it is within the four walls of the enterprise. But now we are talking about optimizing across the network, right? If you have your vendors and the receivers on the same network, can you optimize the freight utilization or truck utilization? Can you optimize inventory across the network? So that is something that we see more and more happening these days.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. And to you, Lydia.
Well, I think Mark and actually everybody mentioned about data sharing. I think this is really the first step to automate the industry. If you look at any other industry, there's always some sort of data components, but logistics seem to be last into its movement. Then if you look at especially from a supply chain perspective, a lot of people are worried that the information is going to be used against them, instead of realizing that sharing is actually the first step to allow them to increase efficiencies, and everybody who's involved will benefit from this. There's a lack of very basic data structures such as API and EDI in supply chain. So this is the first step. And the second is, I think other than data sharing, is modern technology. Especially in JH, a lot of technology was built in the 90s, a very old tech stack, not scalable, not beautifully built, and you really need to pay $150 per hour to hire consultants to learn how to use the technology. So it's not scalable, and also it doesn't work for small trucking companies. 90% of companies are small ones. Nobody can afford to pay over $1,000 a month for a software. So that's why the industry is so backward. So it's an urgent need for modern, easy to use, beautifully built software that can be free to small trucking companies. That's what we're working on. And the third is that we believe marketplace is definitely a revolution to the industry, especially for freight brokerage. So Next Trucking, we call ourselves the first trucker-centric marketplace where we connect shippers and the small trucking companies. We basically streamline the whole process for the shippers so they can trace their truck loads real time, retrieve their POD real time, increase their cash flow. For the drivers, they can dictate what they want instead of negotiating back and forth with the brokers trying to find the best load that fit into their criteria. So they, in another word, increase their efficiency. They can make more money. They can work the way they want at the time that they want. We offer free fleet management for a small trucking company. Lightweight, easy to use. You don't need to hire a consultant to learn how to use the software. It's user-friendly. So those are the things that we think is the future. Obviously, big data, machine learning is really empowering the marketplace. No matter it's from pricing to scheduling to fleet management to routing for the drivers. So they can really increase efficiencies and make more money. And we can attract more drivers to come back to the industry because they can have a livelihood, because the turnover rate is so high. We don't have a balanced supply and demand. With modern technologies, we can balance this.
Yeah, thanks, Lydia. And to you, John, solution for one of the challenges that you see. Hopefully it's for the global downturn.
Well, it's an important thing to put in context. I mean, we're always challenged in our businesses to create efficiencies and find ways to reduce costs. And in logistics, there's so much low-hanging fruit. It's amazing. 35 years, I can't remember the years, but mid-80s, when FedEx invented tracking and tracing, it was a revolutionary concept. What came of that, beyond the ability to have visibility into your supply chain, the thing that became evident really quickly was that customers perceived the information itself as valuable as the actual goods. So information, the value of information became paramount. And that's how FedEx and then UPS and all the rest, built their franchises around information technology. But it was in a custodial environment. So a little different than our world of highly disparate logistics elements, where really there is no custodial control of the physical goods movement. But I believe that custodial control of information is where we're headed in our world. And most of the technology exists. Blockchain aside and all the rest of the great things that are moving through the development cycles, the technology that exists today exists. And we're working with it. So from our standpoint, because we are helping our customers really look at their supply chains in a whole new way, our sales efforts have become more and more a consultative sales effort. What I mean by that is we go into our customers and we ask the question, what is your problem? What are the problems you're trying to solve? And it's always supply chain driven. And since no two supply chains are identical, it's pretty complex. It requires somebody to sit down and really ask the right kinds of questions about their supply chain. We go through an exercise with our customers called mapping, where we literally walk end to end through their supply chain and map their workflow over the process, or their series of processes. And then once we understand the complexities of their supply chain, the handoff points, how many handoff points do we start to address solutions for them within our own portfolio of solutions or outside of our suite of solutions. But the thing that's unique is that while the supply chains, all being different, have anywhere from a few to many handoff points, all of which are critical failure points or potential failure points, the information handoff points are 2 or 3 times that number. And so the complexity related to how much information is flowing to whom is really the thing that has to be managed very, very effectively. There's been a number of speakers in the last 2 days that have addressed some of that. But I think that this is the renaissance. I think this is the opportunity for our industry collectively to make an enormous difference in the cost of managing supply chains. And I believe that it comes with full understanding of the supply chain and the ability to adapt solutions uniquely to each customer. And that requires agility that we haven't had up to this point in our systems. And to me, that's where we're trying to take our business, where we're focused on. And to me, that's really the value add that we think we can bring to the marketplace going forward over time.
Thanks, Joel. And for you, Jeff?
I think one of the first things is actually realizing that with respect to going on a digital journey, that it's possible. I mean, it sounds so abstract and impossible, but the reality is it's possible without changing every underlying system and overcoming legacy systems and spaghetti. But I think what's important to start with is what outcomes are we looking for? Am I looking to optimize? Am I looking to automate processes, provide customers more choice, etc.? And being crystal clear about what those outcomes are. Third, and you've heard it, so Matt says, I've got more data than I can use. What do I do about that? Lydia is, hey, how do we trust it? Right? Or actually, we have to share it. We have to trust each other enough to share it. And then John, yes, we have to share it. We have to use it a lot. But I also would add, we have to have data we can trust. And how do you get there? In our case, we ingest supply chain data from manufacturing to logistics and back. 500 terabytes a day, all into a single data lake. That's a monumental amount of data. But what we've seen is what it can do, the power of it when you can use it and make real-time decisions, or sit in a meeting and put it up on a screen and just play with it real time and have more questions and clean out real answers. And then I think lastly is around culture. When you have that ability and you recognize that data is the real currency here, what does it do to the organization and how do you adapt to it? The pace of the organization changes.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. It's interesting to hear data and and sharing of data as from the whole panel. How about from you, Andre?
There's not much left. Everybody said. The only thing I can say is that in our case we generate data. So a lot of people talk about data, but they're the recipients. We actually generate data, and I think the biggest difficulty we have is data quality. When we generate the data, we can control the quality of the data. When we are the recipient of data, which is the case in a lot of situations, we don't control the quality. And I think that, I probably said this 10 years ago, but one of the differences between an ocean carrier and someone like UPS or FedEx, which we were talking about before, is that we still work with a lot of third parties. We don't own all the elements in that chain. So I think data quality for me is a key component of being able to use all the nice stuff, AI, ML. All this is cool, databases that do stuff on their own, BI, that's fine, but if the data behind that isn't good. So I think that if I had to promote one thing, I would continue to promote IoT, particularly in our line of business. Of course, I still have an issue with the cost, so we need to find solutions to getting lower costs and being able to diffuse that more, particularly on the containers. I think smart containers are a part of the solution to data quality, at least in our line of business. And then everybody can have good data, you can sell it, you can give it away, we can standardize APIs, and I think that is where we need to go.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I didn't realize that we were going to be talking so much about data on the logistics panel, but I actually attended the supply chain finance conference that was on Wednesday here, and a whole panel of bankers and lenders and things, they all talked about sharing of data, like to Lydia's point that you can't do anything if you don't have sharing of data, but it's also about quality of data. You cannot automate processes if you don't have quality and you don't trust that quality, or if you don't trust your partner on the other side. I had one more question, but it's actually been answered by that. It was around data and improvement of those solutions. So let's go ahead and turn it over to the audience for questions. You can direct it to anyone on the panel or throw it.
Hi, my name is Gene Marino. I work for the Carnival Corporation. I'm part of the leadership team that manages supply chains for 105 cruise ships worldwide. So we're all about where's my stuff, assigning demand and supply also, although we know we're going to have a very large supply issue, and of course, container shipping. I have two questions. The first question I have is, when are we going to see autonomous trucking or shipping? And what are your feelings about that? And is that going to resolve the supply issue of trucking here in North America? And maybe it's a question for Microsoft. Are you guys involved in autonomous transports? Certainly trucking is, I think, the...
I don't know how far out we are from the actually solve the capacity issue. I think it will help solve the capacity issue, but I think we're probably more than 5 years away from the point we would actually see that. I think the underpinning thing, the question is, what is the flywheel to even get to something like autonomous vehicles or robots or crowd sharing, crowdsourcing platforms to enable it? It really boils down to cloud, all the data that we've been talking about, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and all of those coming together. By the way, every one of those exists today, but that's the underpinning technology that helps enable those key things like autonomous vehicles. And those are there, and they're easily accessible and relatively easy to deploy. Getting to critical mass and overcoming some of the regulatory issues that are going to come about, I don't know what that timeline looks like. An opinion, I think it's a fantastic thing. And I think it's a scenario where it's human-friendly autonomous vehicles is a perfect intersection to solve a lot of problems and actually free up humans to do more with some of that time.
There's some of the main trucking industry, so I did talk to most of the autonomous trucking companies, including Sequoia, Embark, Starsky, and all in the early days to Simple, and I know Legion truck manufacturers are all working on autonomous trucks, so we believe this is the future. After talking to most of them, most of the autonomous truck manufacturers are still at the early stage. So we believe the technology will be mature in about 5 years. He just mentioned that it takes about 10 years for the regulation to really improve for the trucks to go on the road. Not necessarily the technology is not ready because you have to accompany it with the insurance policies and the government regulations and how we can deal with the warehouse and how we can deal with the local traffic. So initially, after talking to most of those companies, they are all focusing on long haul because especially with the ELD mandate, we're looking at a very severe shortage of truckers. And for long haul, nobody wants to go on the long haul, right? It's a very tough lifestyle, especially for long haul drivers. They're out of home 9 months out of the year. That's why the turnover rate is so high. Nobody wants to drive long haul. So initially, they focus on long haul. They believe that it can largely reduce the burden for the drivers driving long hours because I don't know, any of you have a Tesla here? Yeah, so Tesla, you can actually drive one lane and without really doing anything. So that initially will be the first stage for autonomous trucks. And the plan is really to open a local yard next to the freeway. So those long haul trucks can go from the yard to freeway, get off, go to the yard, hand it over to local trucks. And we are looking forward to working with those companies because, we haul loads. So no matter if the truck with a driver or the truck without a driver, we need capacity. And there are a lot of not so hot lanes, like Montana, nobody wants to go there because you don't have a backhaul. So we can really smartly or more intelligently organize the routes for autonomous trucks to really maximize their efficiency. And they can go to the location that the drivers will want to go and haul the loads that drivers will want to haul. So yeah, I think it's coming along.
More hub and spoke type style of door-to-door long haul. How about within the ports? I mean, it's a confined environment. It seems that the regulations would be easier to get autonomy there rather than having a driver sitting in line or not know when the container is going to be out. And all of you guys or many of you are involved in that port operations in some way. What do you guys think about that?
When you think about the evolution of autonomous vehicles, it's already here. I mean, we at a number of ports, including Long Beach, they have autonomous vehicles running around without any human intervention, all pre-programmed to do their job moving containers from A to B. To me, the logical evolution of autonomous vehicles will happen with bridge. It'll start with that, with the short haul, very short haul movement of goods in confined or controlled lanes. That is desperately needed. And I think that would be the first place we start to see it. Long haul will be the last. But my concern is that, and I totally embrace the vision, but my concern is about here and now. My concern is about how do we address a serious problem. How do we attract the kind of talent necessary to take on a trucker's life? It is, we talk about it at ports a lot. I mean, we talk with our friends at the trucking associations all the time about this. But the bottom line is we have to create an environment that, one, is economically attractive, and two, is technologically attractive to a new generation of drivers. And that really has to be focused. I can go on a long time about that because I'm very, very driver oriented. But the reality is that it is a very, very tough environment for our truckers today. Many of them are facing bankruptcy in the current pricing environment. We have to fix those things. We have to fix capacity and demand, and we have to enable them with the greatest number of tools possible to do their job well. And when I look at what's happening in the ports, they are all focused on turn time, which is all technology driven, very much information enhanced. And the faster the turn time, if you can do something in 35 minutes as opposed to an hour or 3 hours, it drives, and when you get to appointments, and they're legitimate appointments and they're fully executed, suddenly you've got a different world in your hand, because then those drivers can make multiple turns a day, make decent living, and then they're technology enhanced. Then you can start attracting the younger generation into that kind of job.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to attract the younger generation because there's only a five-year timeline. Sorry?
He doesn't think we'll attract.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's hard when you know that you're going to be put out by an autonomous vehicle. I think for sure the lifestyle can be improved, and you have to pay wages. I mean, it's capitalism, right? To get the job done, you just have to pay more.
Yeah, so we believe this coming to in fact, according to Mr. Bain, that subprime startup. So their take is, long code is going to come first from a short form. You cannot replace a driver from door to door. There will still be a driver involved from the pickup to maybe a yard or a domicile next to a freeway. And then comes the driverless trucking, and then, again, the driver getting involved. But more than that, right, there's a lot of technology happening behind the scenes to help execution of this self-driving move. So for example, right now if you look at the dispatching systems in the country, every truck is dispatched based on a dispatcher's, what is in their head, right, so gut feeling. But can you do data-driven dispatching? For example, if you show up at this time at a DC, the dwell time is going to be 2 hours. Whereas if you show up 2 hours later, it's going to be 15 hours, whatever it is, right? So there's enough data out there to automate the dispatching. And again, new kinds of benchmarking. So for example, if there's a lane from Chicago to Denver, if you leave Monday morning at 8 a.m., what's the transit time, right? It's going to be different than if you leave at 10 a.m. or on Tuesday at 12 p.m. So it's all going to be different. So new sorts of benchmarking around transit times, new sorts of benchmarking around dwell times. What's the dwell time at a Walmart DC in Aurora, Illinois, or a Bethesda? There's enough data out there, right? So that's all part of operationalizing the autonomous.
Yeah, that's true. With more data, you can add more complexity. With more systems that work, you can add complexity where it's more hub and spoke, it's more drop-off. And it's easy to pull up, power to a container or to a chassis and just move it a short distance and then save hours and hours of time. Any other questions from the audience? We have about 5 more minutes, I think. Exactly. But really, you have to call people. Oh, it's lunch. You're over. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I'd like to thank the panel for their participation, and thank you all for your participation as well.